Broken elevator. I usually work from home and only see people via Zoom or FaceTime. It's not that I don't like people or the city. I don't even mind public transportation. It's just that I was hit by a car a couple years ago and was laid up for months. I healed physically, but I was left with something called hypermetabolism, which meant I was hungry all the time. Not just hungry, I mean. I would faint if I didn't eat constantly. I know it doesn't seem like such a big deal, but try to find small, healthy snacks that taste good enough to eat every hour or so. I mean, how many granola bars can you carry, let alone eat, with you? Anyway, I had a meeting with a big client and had to visit the workplace in person. July in NYC can be wonderful, or it can be terrible during what is called the Bermuda effect. During the summer, the high front is off the east coast, just above Bermuda. This causes hot, humid air to swirl around, what we New Yorkers call the hot and humid city. Usually the week starts with the temperature and humidity rising throughout the day, with clouds forming earlier and earlier each day for about 7 or 8 days, then a heavy downpour in the middle of the day and everything goes back to normal, or sometimes it starts all over again. My client bought an apartment in a new high-rise in a pencil tower, and I needed to inspect the space so we could measure and finalize the glazing plan. I am a glass consultant. I design, supervise the fabrication, and oversee the delivery and installation of architectural glass. Architectural glass is something other than a standard window or door and can be anything from a crystal lamp base to a huge seamless window or wall 10 feet high and 65 feet wide. The job would require new glass countertops for the giant kitchen, a glass waterfall in the atrium that went down from the roof 3 stories to the pond in the living room, custom seamless sliding doors and huge insulated windows on all 4 sides for 3 stories. I had just gotten off the subway, and in less than 2 blocks I was already sweating like I had run a marathon. The doorman of the building greeted me, and I introduced myself. He called to make sure he could send me upstairs. While he was on the phone, a woman with a child ran by and then came right back, calling for someone waiting in a car. "I'm sorry, Mom. I can't believe I left him upstairs. I'm just going to get him and come straight down. You know what I mean." The doorman directed me upstairs, so the woman and I entered the elevator together, and I asked, "What floor?" "Oh, 107, please." I smiled and pressed 107 and 129. "Are you the new owner? We heard that this apartment has finally sold." No, I'm just a glazing consultant. There are some atypical glass elements in the design." We fell into a friendly silence and, after looking at it for a minute, did what most people do: look at the numbers. The elevator was fast and moved well. I was surprised that everything seemed so quiet. That thought had just occurred to me when there was a loud pop above us and the elevator car shook. It quickly slowed, stopped, and began to fall. In the brief moment it took for us to look at each other, it came to a screeching halt. The emergency brakes went off," I said. She looked startled. "What the hell happened?" "I don't know, but we're safe. The elevator has a braking system separate from the normal mechanics that kicked in. So it looks like the cable got caught or even broke. We slowed down and started going down." "Started to fall?" "Well, yes, the elevator started to fall, but the automatic braking system was activated and we are safe." We both sighed and she pressed the intercom button, then pressed it a few more times. "Shit, shit, 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 shit." She sighed and pressed the intercom button again, and someone answered. "We hear you, we hear you." "What happened and when can we—" She was immersed in her thoughts, so I continued. "When can we get help? When can we get out of here?" "We're trying to find out what happened, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Were you or Ms. Pace hurt?" I looked at her, and she shrugged and shook her head. "No, we're not hurt, but we really need to get out of here as soon as possible." "I understand. We just need to find out what happened, and then we can make sure it's safe to open the doors." "Okay. Please keep in mind that we're up here with little emergency lighting, in the stuffiness with no fan and looking forward. Keep us informed at all times." Oh, God. I have to get a message to my mom. She's right in front of the building. Please, please, please tell her I'm okay and that there are a couple of bottles in my diaper bag. Hell, maybe she should just go to her place and I'll call her. Okay, Ms. Pace. We'll let her know. Sir, we'll let the penthouse know the situation. Thank you. Please keep us informed, even if it's not good news. Hi, Ms. Pace. I'm Bob. Hi. She was clearly nervous. Don't worry, we'll be fine. I'm fine. I'm just a little worried about my son and my mother, and I didn't have anything to say. I just took off my sports jackets, spread them out, and gestured for her to join me as I sat down on them. She shrugged and just sat on the floor across from me and closer to the intercom. We didn't talk at first, so I had a chance to actually look at her. She was trim, I thought, for a recent laboring woman. She was wearing a loose top with a front that seemed to crisscross over itself, and a fairly short, but loose, lightweight skirt. I figured it had to be cooler than my jeans, polo shirt, and dropped sports jacket. We sat in silence for a while, just thinking. It seemed weird to sit there without talking, so I started asking about her baby, saying I was sure her weekend plans would work out anyway. She said she had planned to visit her mother for a few days and was looking forward to getting some rest and being away from the city. I explained what kind of work I was here for, and she seemed interested or at least distracted from our situation when I handed her my phone to look at the visualizations. We tried calling, but neither of us had a consistent or strong enough signal. Hey! It must have been about 30 minutes before a voice came over the intercom. This is Chief Weber, NYFD. How are you guys doing? I nodded to her and she answered, We're fine. It's getting hot and I really need to get out of here soon. I understand, but our primary concern should be everyone's safety. It looks like the cable got kinked, causing a loop around the frame. The weights ended up tearing the cable. Right now, you're between floors and there's a web of cables above you, so we can't open the doors. And it's not safe to go down until we clear or secure the cables. I'm afraid that's going to take some time. The intercom went silent. My hunger was slowly starting to get the better of me. I have some granola bars. I handed her one of them. Thanks, that'll help. Sorry, I didn't think to bring milk. The weirdest thing happened. She started laughing and giggling, repeating milk several times. I just shrugged as I didn't get the joke. I'm sorry, it's just... I have a lot of milk. And started laughing again. Okay? Sorry, I'm sure it won't be a problem. It's just that breastfeeding mothers keep producing milk 24/7, and it's been hours since the pressure eased. I looked at her and then realized what she was saying, reached over and pressed the intercom button. Hey, you're going to have to get us out of here. Hi. Sorry, sir. As you can imagine, it's quite lively in here. Are you all right? I'm fine, but the lady's under pressure. She needs to get out of here. Ms. Pace giggled and quietly repeated, Under pressure. I sat down again, then pressed the intercom button again. Hey, excuse me, but could you ask the guys above us to put down a few bottles of water? Good idea, sir. All right, I'll open the hatch. It took them half an hour, but we heard a distant attention as someone tried to throw water bottles down the cab hatch. Some even hit the elevator, and I caught a couple to keep them from hitting the elevator floor. So we sat in the pale light, getting warmer and warmer, talking occasionally, sipping water and finishing my granola bars. As we talked, I learned that she was a single mom. Her husband had been killed in an ambush in Afghanistan. He had only been there a few days when it happened. Then, just 2 days later, she found out she was pregnant. She didn't even get a chance to tell him he was going to be a father. It was a difficult time. Even though it had only been about 20 months, she was grieving her loss. Her 11-month-old daughter was a dream come true and a nightmare at the same time. She loved her dearly but admitted she had a hard time raising her alone. Oh, her mom helped when she could, but she lived on Long Island so couldn't help with the day-to-day stuff. I think I indulged her probably more than I should have. I told her I was sure she was doing well and that she should trust me, although she politely pretended she didn't believe I was a grandfather with 4 grandchildren. I mentioned that I was recovering from a hit-and-run accident, but I had some work to do upstairs. I explained her hypermetabolism, and of course she immediately scolded me for sharing my granola bars. It was now hotter than anyone would consider comfortable. Even though I had taken off my sports jacket earlier, we were both sweating through our clothes. Her silk chiffon top and skirt clung to her body, and I could see her bra and legs through the wet material. I didn't stare, but I couldn't help but notice. A few hours later, with fairly regular updates, the fire chief was back on. "Well, guys, we're doing the best we can, but it's a mess. And while we're going to keep at it, you should try to get comfortable. We're packing a couple bags. There are blankets outside, some more water, snacks, and sandwiches." Having said that, we heard the thudding and bouncing sounds of the bundles. I don't know how many they dropped, but only 3 made it to the elevator. 1 fell through the hatch, 2 stayed on the roof. I had to lift Ms. Pace up so she could reach them. Did I mention she was wearing a rather short, loose skirt? I thought about it, but lowered my eyes as I lifted her up. She giggled slightly when she said, "Got it," and then added, "And thanks for not peeking." I smiled and we opened the wrappers. We both had the same thought. With a few extra bottles of water, we could save one. So we opened 1 each and poured them over our heads. The cool water felt so nice and my view of her underwear improved. We spread out 1 blanket. I folded the other and tucked it behind her back. When she leaned forward to make room for me, she moaned for the first time. "Are you okay?" "Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, no, actually, it's hard to explain. I'm kind of fed up." "I'm always hungry, so don't worry, I'll have some snacks." Then it hit me. "Oh, crap, you're talking about—" I waved my hand back and forth. "They're full. Oh, crap, oh, crap. What can you do?" "I'll be fine. It's just really uncomfortable and it's starting to get a little painful. But I'll be fine." "What about the empty bottles? Can you use them to get some relief?" "Ha-ha! It doesn't work that way. If I squeeze them, a little comes out. But not enough. I need my pump, or my baby. Or maybe not." You could... No, I don't have to ask. You wouldn't have to drink it, just, suck it up and spit it out into the empty bottles? Sorry, I know it's crazy, it's just getting uncomfortable. We were sitting quietly eating our food when she said, "Well, what do you think?" Of course, I was sitting there with my brain spinning and my mouth open when she just said, "Please, I must have looked like an idiot when I said something like, 'Sorry, sure, no big deal, sure, I can do it, you need help, I can help you, help ease your pain, no big deal, sure. She smiled and said, "So that's a yes?" "Yes. Yes, of course. How do we do this?" She unfolded and spread out the other blanket so that it lay on the floor and rested on her lap. She adjusted the one she was leaning on, rolled up my sports jacket, put it on her lap, and leaned back in the corner. She had me rest my head on her leg while she unbuttoned her top, and then, with a snap, was able to unclasp her bra and move it out of the way. In front of me were 2 of the most beautiful breasts I had ever seen. It took a few tries, but overall I finally figured out what I needed to do to make it work. It was weird and wonderful and tender and sexy. Honestly, I was hungry, so spitting it out into the bottle never occurred to me. Once I got used to the taste and temperature, I breastfed peacefully. I even fell asleep a couple times until she stroked my head and face and quietly said, "We need to switch sides." Instead of standing up, I moved a little farther across her lap while she turned her shoulders and other breast toward me. After a few more turns to get comfortable, we ended up on our sides. Her head rested on one of the blankets while mine was now on my jacket. We shared a blanket on the floor. I wasn't just breastfeeding, I was also touching and gently stroking her breasts, my thumb rubbing the nipple of the breast I had emptied before. As I continued to help her and myself, I think stroking her breast had some effect. She sighed and let out a light moan. "Oh, God," was all she said. I continued to feed on her breasts and slide my hand over her very soft skin. My fingers played with her exposed nipple, she moaned. I continued sucking, she moaned. I was surprised when she shuddered, then shook, pulling my head tighter against her breast. We ended up spending several hours in the elevator. Despite all of this, we became very close. We talked about our lives, our hopes, and our dreams. Even though I was 20 years older, she liked the idea of someone mature and established in her life. I loved her energy and devotion to her mother and son. I respected her loss, but suggested that perhaps we could see each other from time to time when she was ready for it. The voice over the intercom startled us both. "Guys, we're going to raise the elevator about 6 feet up. This will allow us to open the doors. Don't be alarmed if there is a sudden jerk." With those words, the elevator jerked upward. We sat and made ourselves look more presentable. She was wearing my sports jacket over her almost see-through top, and I had unbuttoned my polo shirt. The doors were cracked open with a crowbar, and then 2 pairs of hands slid them open. The cool air seemed wonderful. They insisted we let the paramedics do a quick checkup. They checked our vital signs and gave us an electrolyte drink that tasted awful. We then took one of the other elevators down to the lobby and were greeted by the manager, the doorman, and the customer I was supposed to meet. He was just returning from a late dinner and asked if I could talk for a few minutes. I said, "Let's go to the bar. I'm not up for another elevator ride at the moment." He laughed and said he understood. It was then that I noticed Ms. Pace heading for the door. I ran after her. "I'm sorry, but I didn't want you to leave without saying goodbye and thank you. You literally saved my life." She leaned down as if she was going to kiss my cheek and whispered, "We saved each other." "Can I call you?" "I'd like that. Here's my card. I work from home mostly, too." "I remember you mentioning that." "Oh, of course, we talked about so many things. It seems like such a long time ago." "I feel like I've known you forever." Then she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Me too." We parted as she walked to the door. I quickly said, "I'll call you. We can go out, maybe for a drink." She looked over her shoulder and started laughing. The last thing I heard before the door closed was her laughing even louder and saying to herself, "We can drink milk. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you."